Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen and distinguished guests. I'm Annie from HTX, and it's my pleasure to be here to introduce our panel 2 on industrial role in AI deployment for Homeland Security. Yeah, so with us today, we have a few key leading figures from the private sectors. Yeah, so allow me to give a quick introduction. So we have Gérard, that is from Thales. He oversees the overall protection systems businesses worldwide, and he worked into a different markets. And we have Lan, that is from Accenture, and he worked closely with company across industry, yeah, and also geographical on AI and data strategy, and importantly, the adoption journey, right? And we have Dave from Cisco that look into the development of business strategy, accelerating growth, and even delivering innovative transformation strategies for all the customers. Sam, last but not least, from NCS, leading and building digital government portfolios in Singapore and across the Asia Pac. Together, the panelists, yeah, we aim to shine lights into 4 aspects. First is about how the industry are leveraging on AI technology. Second, we look into the challenges that they face, and then followed by the importance of the collaboration between the industry and also the government. And last but not least, we touch on what are the potential AI deployment on Homeland Security. So I will start. So you look at AI adoption in the recent year, it has actually increasing quite drastically due to a lot of growing volume, complexity on the security threats. And in actual fact, there's many perspectives that we look into for how AI deployment can be done in a Homeland Security. And today, we have the panel speakers here, and we would like to hear from their views from an industry perspective. So I start with Lan. In terms of your views on how you look at, because being the top 25 consultant and leaders in AI, yeah. So what is your views of the most interesting trend that we see in 2023?
Yeah, sure. Let me share my perspective. I think that there's so many exciting things happening in the space of AI these days. I will quickly touch on 2 aspects. Pretty much summarizing from my experience, my team's experience working with global industry clients, day in and day out. I think on the technology front, which is the first aspect, in my long career in AI, about 20 plus years, never have I seen something like generative AI, so transformative as a general purpose technology. I think even over the last 6 months, so my first time visiting Singapore was last June during the peak time of Gen AI. But over the last 6 to 8 months, the development on the technology front for Gen AI has continued, right? In fact, it actually has accelerated. So I think as the business leaders in both private sector and public, sector, it's important to understand those mega trends, right, in Gen AI. I think for example, the model supremacy, right, is, in our opinion, is kind of going away, right? So initially at the, beginning of the Gen AI, right, even now, today, a lot of our clients are using OpenAI's, GPT series of models, but model supremacy is going away, right? There are more competitors, right, in getting into the GPT class of models. Let me give you one example. For those of you who follow Anthropic, who's a startup, right, providing foundational models, their Claude 3 series of models, in fact, now it's beating, right, some of the benchmarks of OpenAI's GPT-4 model. What that means is, one of their models is based basically able to have human-level understanding, right? Like undergrad student, right? So we joke about like just over the last 4 or 5 years, AI has grown from the kindergarten level, kind of, human-level language understanding now to almost undergrad student level. So it's pretty remarkable. So I think the larger models, there are more competitors getting into the space, but then we also notice that there are models. On one hand, is becoming smaller, right? So it's not just competing on the parameter count, but also ability to distill specialized knowledge into smaller models, so that companies can leverage this kind of smaller models for their specific domain needs, and also care for some of the language nuances, culture nuances, industry domain nuances, which I think is super important for the topic today. So I think my even just on the technology front, there's no single dominant design. That's what I always talk about. More models are coming out almost every day. Model types are becoming different. Very divergent. What that means is for public sector leaders, for industry leaders, you need to do due diligence, right? In order to pick the right model for your business, having the right kinds of expertise is becoming very important. So that's on the technology front. On the industry front, I think very clear trend that we are seeing is this is not a technology that any industry will want to leave behind. Oftentimes people ask me, Lang, can you tell me which industry is the leader, right, in Gen AI? There's really no leader, right? So I think every industry is doing their part, is jumping in, is starting their journey. There are industries like banking, insurance, healthcare, because of the high regulation in those industries, they tend to actually go faster, which is surprising to us. But this is the technology that, like I said, nobody, no industry wants to leave behind. So those are the two main trends that we are closely monitoring and, in fact, influencing in the industry, both on the technology and business side.
Yeah, I think that in terms of technology and industry, if you talk about technology, that model is getting smaller. And interestingly, if this model can even go into all our mobile phone.
Yep.
Yeah, so that can be so impressive. You don't really need a GPU compute at the back at the server, right? Yeah, so that is a very impressive aspects of it. And generative AI is really, truly the one that make a change and accelerating the whole AI adoptions. Yeah, thanks, Alan. Yeah, so Gérard, next for yourself. Yeah, so based on your drawing from your past experience in ops and technology roles, yeah, so what is your views on AI technologies and their deployments?
In fact, the first operational challenge is to process an ever-increasing volume of data with few personnel. So in a word, you have to do more with less people and faster. So then we'll use technology for the people not to be overwhelmed by this massive volume of data. So we'll use machine learning, frugal learning, reinforcement learning to first warn earlier in security or in defense. So to automatize detection of suspicious, unauthorized activities on site, cities, or let's say networks. We will use AI to solve incidents faster, to propose intervention and better orientation of decision heads to help people to decide quickly, and also to predict better. So generative AI is one way to predict, to use a predictive model to act before incident occur. Then generative AI can be used to train people better and also to help people to take better decisions. But the last challenge we have with AI, it's not AI modules and technology itself, it's the data cycle management. In fact, to keep the AI modules at the top level of performances, you need to store, collect data every time. You need to train continuously the AI modules to keep them at the top of the technology. And then you need to deploy them quickly on the field. And in fact, if you compare the costs of the build phase of an AI solution, so finding the right module, training it, deploying it, if you compare that build cost to the run cost, so maintaining this module at the top of the technology, the difference between the build phase and the run phase can be from 1 to 5, 6, 7. So the main part and the main difficulties in AI is to maintain it and to make it run, operationally speaking.
Yeah, it's what Gérard mentioned. It's not about just the deployment. It's about how subsequently are we sustaining it and continues to improve on it. Yeah, so next, Dave. Yeah, based on your portfolio covering Asia Pac, Japan, and Greater China. So what is your views on these aspects of the AI technology, and what are some of the success stories, not success stories, the impacts that you can see in the industry?
You bet. And by the way, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, maybe 2 years ago, we would have been talking about semiconductors, that semiconductors were going to define the economic advantage of a country. Now it's AI. And AI isn't new. You saw many examples that Dr. Lee showed. Many of them were predictive AI, probably been used for the last decade. But as you think about how things have progressed, especially over the last few years, inference models, generative AI has become really top of mind, not only for businesses, but for consumers as well. We recently ran a AI readiness index just to assess what our top customers around the world were thinking. 97% of them, it doesn't matter if it was public or private, said that AI is now a boardroom conversation. 60% of them said they had 1 year to execute an AI strategy. 1 year to execute an AI strategy. And then 14% said they were unprepared for AI. But in this survey, we asked them what was the top technology innovations they're focused on to help them meet whatever business they're in objective. And there was 3 of them that came out. A lot of them were listed. Number 1 was AI infrastructure. And I know when we think about AI infrastructure, we think about GPUs, CPUs, converged stacks, all of that, workloads, where to host them. But things like, what do you do with language models? Do you go to open source? Do you build your own large language model? Do you even need a large language model? Maybe you can do a small language model, depending on what industry you're in. So many were focused on, what do I need to do to build the next generation AI infrastructure? Do I host it? Does it need to be on-prem? Do I build the compute myself? Do I host it publicly? So a lot of that is going through our customers' mind right now. That's number 1. Number 2 is cybersecurity and the impact of cybersecurity on AI. Because if we look at AI, we're looking at it from a defensive standpoint, how to protect and provide insights and understanding of what's going on in our environments. The attackers have a different strategy. And so just understanding what needs to happen to leverage the value of generative AI in cybersecurity. What are the attackers doing with generative AI? What tools and capabilities? So that was the number 2 area. The interesting thing about number 2 is only 4% of the world's companies today are prepared for a major cyber incident. And so most believe, 75% of companies believe in the next 12 to 18 months they'll all see a cyber incident. Well, combine that with this push towards AI, generative AI, moving from predictive to generative, there's a lot at risk here. And then the last piece is around customer experience. How do you use AI assistance to change the experience? Either it's a call center or it's a functional job that AI can help produce either a better outcome, first line response, and then you can upskill people to do other functions. So all of those were outlined. Those 3 were the top 3 that customers looked at in regards to AI. And so when we get deeper in the conversation, we'll talk about how that relates to homeland security, defense, and other areas as well.
Yeah, so Dave has summarized quite well. We talk about the infrastructures, we talk about cybersecurity, and next, very importantly, the user experience. And next, I move to Sam. I mean, we covered the worldwide, the bigger region. So based on your portfolio, what do you think in Singapore context and also Asia Pac?
Thank you. From an AI deployment, it's always hard to start after Dave, right? Very hard to catch up. I'll summarize it into maybe 5 archetypes, right, in terms of AI deployment. And with a Singapore audience, it's always dangerous to talk about 5, right? Then you start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll count for you, right? So number 1, from an architect standpoint, I've seen AI deployment really from an SI perspective, system integration perspective, around monitoring and surveillance, right? This is really deploying AI to detect, respond to potential security threats, running it real time, which is something that from a compute standpoint is available now for us to gather intelligence for C2 and Ops Center. Number 2, from a deployment perspective, I'm seeing a lot more around immigration and border security. So again, with the proliferation of AI and even Gen AI, we're seeing faster clearance, more secured clearance and seamless kind of push out of people moving across borders. AI has also reduced the likelihood of human error. So that frees up a lot of our immigration and custom officers, right, to actually focus on more critical tasks like examining visitors or maybe investigation, right, on specific use case. The third deployment I've seen a lot more with AI is actually around emergency and incident response. Now, this is about emergency preparedness. So with AI, actually decisions are made more accurately and much more real-time or near real-time. So that actually helps genuinely to save lives, improve operations, and be more efficient. The fourth one is actually around sit awareness, or what we call situational awareness. So with sit awareness, it's really about gathering enough intelligence, sense making, right, and actually arriving at a very quick decision, very accurate decisions through the use of models and AI. And then last but not least, like what Dave pointed out earlier, cyber threats and scams. So with AI, from a deployment standpoint, it is actually able to kind of detect cyber threats, frauds, and even scams much more quickly. And over here in Singapore, we are also using AI to detect and block scam sites, for example. And that's actually been something that could come to bear because of the proliferation of AI. Annie?
So I think the panelists have shared quite a fair bit of the AI deployments that we have in the current trend or even the current industrial aspects. So you talk about deployment of AI, we continue to expand across the industry. And in actual fact, transforming quite a fair bit of the processes and services in Homeland Security. And there are many success stories, many possible use cases. I think Sam had mentioned some of them just now, and I believe quite a fair bit of learning points also, right? So on that, maybe Gérard, you can start with AI have impacted industry in the many past years. Yeah, so can you provide some possible use cases?
Yeah. I'm working in defense and in security. And in defense, AI is mainly used for detection, recognition, and identification of potential targets. It's used also to help people to take decisions, especially commanders. And also, more and more, especially in Ukraine, it's used to optimize artillery firing. But in Homeland Security, AI is mainly used for early warning and decision aids. So, for example, you can have AI based on video recognition or video cameras to detect abnormal behaviors of people, objects gathering, people gathering or running in dangerous areas. You can use also drones equipped with AI to detect a normal situation, like fire detection, for example. You can use AI for automatic crowd management, to manage the stream of people leaving a stadium, for example, to check the security and safety of people. You can use automatic detection of stolen cars or unauthorized car in a specific area. Automatic detection of drones, counter drones. It's incoming a new threat. And also, you can select, using AI, the best teams when you have an incident, the best team to intervene, the closest team to intervene to an incident. Also, AI can be used for biometric uses, as mentioned already. You can have contactless checkpoint for immigration to, let's say, to have faster clearance of people going through immigration using biometric identification. One specific case we had in Mecca, in the Mecca Mosque, is to use biometric to find lost children in a crowd. When a child has been lost by his parents, you can use a biometric to recognize him and to find him again in a crowd. And also, as mentioned already, to use AI for cyber attack monitoring, and also to detect weak signals in social networks to prevent some attacks through the words exchange on social networks. Some possible use cases.
Yeah, so Gérard have covered many use cases. Yeah, so back to Sam. From a local context, how can you relate into some of the use cases that we have from a local aspects?
Sure. Gérard just saved some for me, Couldn't cover that much. But let's say rounding it up for a local perspective, unpacking what I mentioned earlier regarding the domains, a couple of use cases maybe just to emphasize on the use of AI. So first, on AI and video surveillance, I'm seeing more use cases and examples around scanning of video, live feed, spotting anomalies. So techniques like facial recognition, object recognition, pattern recognition, I think those are already here and present today. So that's one aspect of a use case. The other areas that I think I see a lot more on, I mentioned earlier to unpack the AI and emergency response, is to use AI and Gen AI actually to kind of contextualize the emergency preparedness. This includes actually even simple techniques like speech to text. So when a caller calls into a call center, reporting a police, reporting a error or an issue or a crime, instead of transcribing the speech over to a digital form, AI can actually use a hyper-local speech-to-text capability to translate that. Downstairs on level 1, just a big plug for the teams downstairs, there's actually a number of speech-to-text capability and demo. So after the conference, please visit the booth and encourage the team along the way. Next, on situational awareness, from a use case standpoint, I'm seeing a lot more situational awareness capability, and this includes things like metaverse situation awareness, where from an emergency standpoint, people can actually jump in to actually build up sit awareness room to actually get sense making of different feeds, like from video, camera, even social media feeds like LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and so forth, on what's actually happening and sense make the situation on the ground. Annie?
Yeah, I think Gérard and Sam have really covered many interesting use cases, and definitely we can visit the exhibits to really see them. Yeah, on all showcasing of all these possible use cases. Yeah, so back to Lan. Yeah, with your many years of experience working on AI strategies, what will be the most impactful industrial lead initiative or even the research area that will make a difference and enhance the capability for Homeland Security?
Yeah, so I'm definitely not the Homeland Security expert, but I think, when I saw these questions, my immediate reaction is, okay, what are the proven things that we have done on the private sector side, on the industry side, that, Homeland Security team can actually leverage, right? So that this is not just, oh, AI can do this, AI can do that. It's actually, we have done this, right, in the private sector, and what can the public sector borrow from those proven experience? So with that mindset, I jotted down a couple things. I think the list is quite long, right? But I think first of all, a low-hanging fruit, right? Think about process re-engineering, right? We do a lot of work like that on the private sector side in banking's case, right? Using generative AI combined with the classical AI to help, for example, loan officer to speed up the consumer mortgage, right? Mortgage approval. In insurance case, again, using Gen AI to basically help speed up a lot of insurance claim processing, right? Which again, we all as consumers, we understand how painful that process is, because in both cases they are very language intensive, document intensive, lots of checking, a lot of regulatory documents, requires a lot of deep institutional personal knowledge, right? In bank's case, in insurance case. So I'm sure there are use cases like this, in Homeland Security's case, right? So let me give you a adjacent example. We're actually working with the U.S. Department of Commerce, right? So again, exactly taking what we are doing in banking, in insurance, now using this, same solution to actually help speed up the application approval for a lot of government subsidy fund disbursement, right? So again, just think, I think what I want you to take away here is there a process re-engineering kind of use case category that is pinpoint, right, to Homeland Security team today, then it's a sweet spot for Gen AI. So that's one example. I think the second example is something like synthetic, everything synthetic, right? So in private sector's case, now more industries are starting to use synthetic data, synthetic media, right, to actually fill the gap where the real data is not available. Like for example, in life sciences, right, pharmaceutical industry, right, creating synthetic patient, right, using Gen AI so that you can actually speed up the clinical review, clinical approval process after drug discovery. So something that I think it's, again, I'm sure there are also needs like that in Homeland Security. In fact, I think one of the a very good use case will be, I think someone mentioned, in fact, this is something that is a public information Department of Homeland Security in the United States. Now they are using approach like that to train the immigration officer, right? So that you can actually create a AI-generated synthetic customer or immigrant, right? So that crossing the border, so that the officer can basically have conversation, deal with that situation. So again, I think that's also a very clever use of something that has been proven in private sector. Now you borrow that into public sector. I think another thing that I haven't heard people talk a lot about so far, that's why I want to point out, is the industry partnership, right? The collaboration is very, very prominent in the age of Gen AI across multiple private industries. So industry partnership in terms of multiple companies within the same industry coming together, building industry level large language model so that you can share data safely and then create something that is more specific to the industry. I think that's also super relevant for the public sector in Homeland Security. So think about how you can pull resources together, create some kind of Homeland Security GPT. So we have many, many examples in private sector, companies are doing this. Let me give one example. Mining industry, several of my mining clients, they actually decided to come together, take the general purpose model, right, open source model, and train a mining GPT by sharing information like asset depreciation, sharing information like worker safety, which is non-confidential, right, non-competitive information across all these companies, so that multiple companies can benefit from this kind of industry-specific GPT. So I think those are the three, pretty prominent themes that I think, the public sector can easily borrow, right? Process re-engineering, efficiency, think about everything synthetic so that that doesn't become your bottleneck, because data in some cases could be pretty hard to find, right? And then the third point is, strengthen this kind of industry partnership. I think that also applies, the partnership between public and private industry. So just want to share those three.
Lan, thanks for the summarize of the 3 points. In actual fact, for the technology part of the synthetic data, that one is really an impactful one. A lot of technologies are very much constrained by availability of data, and that have really hold back the way how things have moving. And with this, I mean, it have removed this part of the unnecessary constraint, and things will have been moved very fast. On the collaboration, later we will touch on that. Maybe we can get the rest to also share a bit more on these aspects. Yeah, so maybe next I move to Dave. I think I understand that Cisco side have implemented some AI solutions. Yeah, and we want to share some of the success stories and how that impact the industry. Yeah.
I mean, I'll go through some of the things that we're doing and that you'll see. I do want to build on sort of everything that's been said just a little bit and what I've seen in practice. Again, there's a lot of predictive AI that's being used today, right? Run through a red light. The AI engine identifies that you've run through the red light, takes a picture of your license plate, and sends you a ticket or be in court in a week. That's predictive. Now, what's going on today in both physical and network security is, using generative AI models. If maybe there's 5 specific physical incidents that happen at 5 different places and locations, let's just say in a given country, that may correlate to some other activity that's going on, and training these language models to be able to understand and to infer based off of those 5 different incidents what exactly is happening. We see that happening in practice today. So in terms of really using AI, not from the predictive standpoint, but really trying to assess and understand based off of 5 different incidents that happen at the same time in different locations in a similar country may lead to something bigger and something more significant, with AI providing insights and visibility into what could potentially happen. On the networking side, being able to understand what's happening and having the AI engine provide guidance and insights and maybe recommendations. Today in network security, we use AI. An event happens, tell me the event happens, trigger an alert, get people together, figure out what action to take. But we don't see that sort of as the future. The future is an event happens, the AI engine is smart enough to look across the entire enterprise infrastructure, to look and see where you could potentially be vulnerable, assess where the attacker may go next, if it's laterally or vertically, and then make some recommendations and potentially ask, based off those recommendations, to execute those things. Turn off these users, lock down these applications, remove access for remote users, like all of that in action. So we see that happening today. And then when you think about threat intelligence, and I think threat intelligence is very important, there's a lot of threat activities going on, and these threat engines are providing all of us visibility of what's happening worldwide. So we see instances where there may be a malware attack that's starting in Eastern Europe, and that will sort of spread around the world. Well, the AI engine being smart enough to look across your infrastructure, applications, middleware, to networking services, and make an assessment of where you may be vulnerable, what you may need to upgrade, what actions you need to take, and then, taking those actions on your behalf if you allow them to. So we see things like that. And then, in security operations centers, in a lot of places, really starting to use generative AI to understand threat intelligence, what attackers are doing, how they are being successful in exploiting networks, training their models to be able to counter, to redirect attackers to honeypots, and do very creative, innovative things that we had never done before. Because although we had strong AI capabilities, it was all predictive, and it was all based off of what we knew. It wasn't able to quickly move and be flexible and come up with creative ideas to help be successful. So for us as a company, we've got to try to support all of this. Building next generation silicon that allows fast convergence, because when you start to stack up GPU clusters or CPU clusters, depending where you are, it's very complicated. And you've got to converge all of that very fast. And so be able to deliver that next generation fabric is absolutely what we're doing. We just finished our acquisition of Splunk, small $28 billion acquisition. But if you look at that, the idea is to be able to look from application all the way down to the network to assess resilience and be able to make determinations on what to do and make recommendations, and using AI to be able to ensure that a customer is resilient no matter what situation they're in. So looking up and down the stack. And again, across our portfolio, we're now seeing the implementation of AI assistants. There's an AI assistant for everything. AI assistant for collaboration. So like now you don't really have to go to the meeting. You put your AI assistant to go to the meetings for you. The AI assistant takes notes. The AI assistant knows when your name is called, know what the top talkers were, know what the top activities were on the call. We'll let you know if it was a productive call or an unproductive call, let you know who spoke on the call, who didn't speak on the call, who referred to you. Like that's like happening now. Like, and so it's, I mean, this is moving so rapidly. And then in security as an example, you want to go out and assess your security profile. And, you know, I love our consultants. They come in and they help us, Accenture, McKinsey, Deloitte, everybody comes in and helps, which is good. But let's have the AI engine do some of the grunt work. Go through and assess my readiness to be able to meet NIST standards, assess all of my access control lists. And access control lists are a fun one because in many of our organizations, we have hundreds of thousands of access control lists. They've probably been there for a decade. They've probably gone through 5 turnovers of people. Nobody wants to touch any of it because if you touch it and you remove it, it potentially will bring down an infrastructure. So using AI to assess all of that stuff. You know, if you have thousands of branches, be able to use technology to be able to give you assessment, make recommendations, remove it for you, do all of that. Like, we never had that ability in the past. And now, you know, I've got a security AI assistant, a collaboration AI assistant, a network automation AI assistant. So these tools are being put into practice today.
Yeah, I think we cover quite a fair bit in terms of the success stories and use case. And I believe that the industries are still facing some of the challenges on how we actually deploying them. So perhaps I want to hear from Gérard in terms of your prior ops role, right? I mean, if you're now from the ops perspective, what do you think about this part of the challenges that you can face? And now being the technology providers, yeah, how will you then address them?
Yeah, as I mentioned it earlier, the first challenge is to manage and to master the life cycle of data. So this build and run cycle to build the AI. The second concern, in fact, the second challenge is to have a trustworthy AI. So AI you can trust in. The first part of this trustable AI, let's say, is to protect privacy and civil liberties. So to avoid biases in data you use to train the model. Also to have national or international regulation, AI should abide to and to have some laws on the use of private data. It's what we have in Europe, for example. Also, something very important is the acceptability of AI by citizens. In some countries, people are not ready to accept AI for biometric use or whatever the use is. For example, in France, people are very cautious and are afraid of the use of AI. They always have in mind this famous book of George Orwell's 1984 with Big Brother watching you. And in fact, there is a lot of resistance in France to use AI everywhere. So in public space, but not only. The third concern regarding the trustworthy AI is the robustness and security of AI. So having an AI with multiple layers of security controls with threats modelings and risk assessments to avoid attacks on AI as presented by the first speaker this afternoon, to be sure that the AI will give always trustable results. And then also a lot of hackers more and more will try to attack AI through weaknesses, and then you need to strengthen all the AI module for them not to be attacked and to be as fair as possible.
Yeah, it's true that from an AI deployment perspective, the human play a very big part of it, the buy-in, the trust aspects of it. Yeah. And for that, maybe I move to Lan. In terms of your views, what is the biggest challenge and opportunity that you think?
Yeah, no, I think
AI
I agree everything Gérard was walking through, definitely on my list too. I have two things to add, again, based on our experience working in private sector, working with lots of Fortune 100, Fortune 500 clients globally. I think the one is data, second is talent. So if you haven't addressed those, they could become the potential gotchas very, very quickly for Homeland Security. So I think on the data front, especially if you want to harness the power of Gen AI, your data is your competitive advantage. I know that's the tagline I use with my private sector client all the time, because they're always thinking about how do they differentiate themselves from the competitors. So again, we have to kind of contextualize, twist that a little bit in the public sector's case. But hopefully you get my point, right? So and largely because in a lot of cases, this kind of generative AI, you are using what I call other people's model, right? Pre-built models from OpenAI, from Google, from startups. So your data, right? The quality of your data to bring into the prompt engineering, to even potentially use your own data to do fine tuning, to do the continuous pre-training, so that the responses, right, coming from the model is more accurate, is more relevant to the questions that you are trying to get answers for. So data is going to be your secret sauce. So again, this is something that number one advice I'm giving to my cross-industry clients. Now it's time to break down your data silos, things that we've been preaching for decades, right? Connecting your data, bring your data together, improve your data quality, do secure data sharing. All this are what we consider as no regret moves. So I think throughout today, at least so far, I've been hearing similar challenges, right, from different departments, from different officers, and sounds like data in public sector for Homeland Security is also a challenge. So now it's time to address them. And there are technologies out there, right, from many of my partners here, which can help break down this kind of challenges. So data is going to be your competitive advantage. I think the second one is talent. So talent shortage has risen to I would say the top three challenges on the C-suite agenda in private sector. And many of my clients are telling me, okay, they have invested in data engineers, they have invested in lots of data scientists, but the talent expertise, right, required for Gen AI is quite different. Okay, so even in Accenture, of course, we are in service business, right? So I run Accenture's AI business. We have, in the last earning release, we talk about we have 53,000 data and AI practitioners globally. It's a big practice. So number one, thing for us in my role is actually to upskill, reskill a lot of our talents, so that our, resources can bring the, state-of-the-art capabilities to our cross-industry clients. It hasn't been easy, let me put it this way, right? Including, in some cases, you have to think about your talent strategy, look into your talent profiles from completely different lens. And let me give 30 seconds, one example. We have, within our practice, we have to completely revamp our talent profiles. We actually come up with one talent, like for example, one talent profile that we're super proud of is actually AI computational scientist. It's a mouthful kind of role, right? But think about, that's the kind of role now we have probably 2,000 people kind of fitting into that role. That's the role that every company who wants to start their Gen AI journey, who wants to excel in Gen AI, will actually be looking for, right? Because that's a role that combining mathematics, statistics, computer science, software engineering, and also some of the social science, psychology, right? Even the knowledge management, kind of skill set into one role. So again, I'm not trying to scare you. If this is new to you, that's okay. But this is a kind of talent revamping that your organization will be undertaking very, very soon. So like I said, data challenge, talent challenge. These two are inevitable challenges for your organization.
Yeah, I think this aspects of technology, data, and this part of the human capitals where we talk about talents is really very crucial, especially if everybody is onboarding to AI. Then we are going after the same pool of engineer, right? To really look into this part of the skill set. And it might have to go into as early as academics that we went into and then be able to train them up from there rather than wait until they graduate and then be able to contribute.
I think the appetite for learning and also, not just training your technical resources, also training your business domain leaders, right? So that business domain leaders can work side by side with your technology AI resources to utilize those applications is super, super critical.
Yep, it's true. I mean, the users together with the industry and also whoever the data scientist, the data engineer, I think that will form a team to really solve the issues, right? So we cover about the challenges. Now we look into the collaboration. I mean, adding on to what Len had mentioned just now about the collaborations. Yeah, so panel one, speakers have shared about government perspective. They highlight about the key priorities and the challenges in homeland security, where AI could make a difference. There are ways and means that governments and industry, we can collaborate to address the needs and example of facilitations of AI, adoptions and fostering innovation of AI. So maybe Dave, I want to hear from you. What are some possible initiatives to address the government needs and what are the success factors in implementing them?
Well, I think, I want to build on what Gerald said and Lance, because I think it's really important. Between industry and government, I think there's the challenge of data, there's the challenge of responsibility and doing things ethically and making sure that ethical approaches to using AIs are implemented in a given country. So it's done correctly, it's done properly, just like the examples you used in Europe where people are very apprehensive and concerned about their data, concerned about their privacy. Those are areas that I think industry and government have to work hand in hand on. And we also have to work hand in hand in building the next wave of talent. You gave 10 examples of, from data scientists to prompt engineers. We've got to be able to build that next wave of talent, not just in AI, but at the same time, we've got this huge shortfall in cyber as well. And the two are so interrelated that it's going to be very important that we sort of get our arms around it together. And then, as you look at capabilities, it doesn't matter if it's, secure supply chain. How government and industry are working together to build the next generation of software or product, understanding what's right and what's wrong, understanding to make sure that there's no tampering that happens, and so that when a government customer gets a service, a capability, regardless if it's in the cloud or on-prem, if it's a piece of hardware or software, that they know that it's reliable and capable and hasn't been touched anywhere along the way. And then we just mentioned it in a small bit, but the whole idea of what do you want to train on? And working hand in hand between us and what models do we want to train? How do we want to train it? Do we want to train it with your data? Or do we want to train with synthetic data? These are some interesting, difficult decisions because those that have trained with user data, and we've seen a couple of companies get exposed where user data was exposed to others. We've got to be very smart. Is it user data? Is it your own data? Is it synthetic data? How do we want to fill in the gaps? With what do we want to fill in the gaps with? I think there's a great opportunity. So I just think as we go on this journey together, the partnership is absolutely critical because, we're talking about citizens in a country that may be concerned about how their data is being used, how the government is using AI to better enhance the lives of the communities of the citizens that are here. And that's, I think, the responsibility of partnerships between both private and public sector. And I think, to really do this the way that it needs to be done, we need to hold hands. And we're going to need to make investments on both sides to be successful.
Yeah, this is a very valid one. In actual facts, we talk about the data usage aspects. There's a need to look into the multi-tiers. We may have to start with a semantic one and eventually go for the operational one. And in actual fact, it's an ongoing process. right? We don't start with an AI algorithm and then we end there. There's a continuous process that we need to look into it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that the panel said it so well. There's incredible opportunity here. There is incredible opportunity to harness and use AI for the betterment of man and humankind. But we have to be thoughtful about it, and we've got to do it responsibly. And so, policy standards, ethical offices to be able to look at how AI is implemented, absolutely critical to success.
Important, yes. So Sam, maybe back to you. Yeah, so how can then industry and government work together to ensure not just about AI deployment, but to keep it as innovative and also effective?
My favorite topic, actually. So, as it relates to collaboration, I think my panelists here have very eloquently summarized. Really, the collaboration, the business industry and government coming together is paramount for AI to be implemented successfully. Perhaps a few more points to consider. One is around co-creation, right, and a culture of experimentation. So with AI and with some of these use cases, you're never really sure where the end goal is. Perhaps there's never really an end goal, right? It's really a journey. And so from a government and from an industry standpoint, we must be prepared to come together, co-create, and experiment, and be ready to fail. And then get up again, try out different techniques, different data, different structure, different models. The second point is really around turbocharging skills, right? I think Lan pointed out skills development, right? How we will never have enough skills, right, in the marketplace. So how do we build capabilities and skills, reskill our employees as well, reskill the industry, reskill the government, right, to actually be familiar with the techniques and the data being used. The third point I want to share might be a bit controversial. I think 2 years ago, Yao Boon, I'm not sure if he's here, shared this in a forum, and I'm not sure he was booed off the stage or otherwise, but it is about procurement, right? So as a service integrator, services integrator, we always struggle with the procurement aspect of projects that are actually not so fixed outcome, fixed scope defined. What if we were to consider for AI projects a more co-development, staff augmentation, partnership model, and perhaps even a value-based model, right, to actually engage the industry and engage the principal vendors, right, to actually define the outcomes with the government.
Yeah, I think Sam have mentioned this procurement, and I think DCE Yao Boon have mentioned just now in the panel one also. It's definitely one of the use cases that we are working on, even applying AI strategy into it to make it a better one. While we're moving ahead to make AI possible, we are very constrained by all this sort of mundane kind of processes and things that we got to sort it out. So it's a valid concern. Yeah, so while we cover about the current implementation, we talk about the various challenges and the possible collaborations, now maybe we can touch on about the future directions on how we see AI and the various opportunity it can be. So as what shared, I mean, AI still remain as one of the very prominent emerging technologies, and they are ready to reshape a lot of industry and also society as large. Yeah, so maybe for that, Gérard, can you share some of the example of potential applications that you see in Homeland Security with these technologies?
I think the first promising technology is probably embedded AI. So with all these GPUs, graphic processing units, with a lot of power, so to equip security vehicles or forces with embedded AI. So for video analytics, for example, for the Olympic Games in France, I'm in charge of security for the Olympic Games in France. We will have embedded video analytics in the camera. Also, embedded AI can be used for drones, robots everywhere to have more and more autonomous robots or drones to be used everywhere. Embedded biometric control for sure. To have a control done directly by a policeman on the street and not relying on a remote data center. And for me, the second big trend is, this fancy generative AI, but this generative AI can be used for command center, for example, police command center. It will answer questions, it will extract information, generate a lot of personalized content. It will help people to boost their productivity and to help them to take a decision. also to have predictive model, what if scenario, as already mentioned. And also you can have a sophisticated chat box, and you can ask a lot of questions to this generative AI, like who was that tall and bald guy present at Milipol on stage and saying silly things. So you don't need an AI to answer to this question, it's me. But then you can have this kind of tools more and more to help people to run command centers.
Yeah, it seems a very interesting and exciting journey that we talk about this future potential. So maybe I back to Lan. I mean, in terms of how can we be then AI ready? I mean, we talk about all these fantastic and real use cases. Yeah, then how we see ourselves on being able to be AI ready, and what is the industry going to embrace on AI to make the full use of it to be effective?
Yeah, that's a 3-hour conversation.
But
this is what I talk to, our Accenture, team advise C-suite clients in the private sector all the time, right? We, and I think there are similar needs on the Homeland Security side, and I cannot stress enough, right? I think what we've been talking all along the way with all the panelists sharing, right? There's no need to reinvent the wheel. There are a lot of innovations, a lot of proven solutions on the private sector side, and I think that's collaborate, that's hold things together so that we can share this kind of knowledge, and knowledge is power, right? And I think so that the public sector side can accelerate the Gen AI adoption, Gen AI, more importantly, value realization, right, faster. But I think same thing, is on the public sector side, there are innovations, lots of surveillance AI, lots of forensic AI, lots of emotional intelligence things that I frankly are having eye-opening kind of reaction, right? So those are the things that private sector can also learn from. So I think, to me, just the collaboration and the fostering this kind of true partnership way of working together, we have some gaps. I think the second advice I will give to everyone, sometimes, which sounds obvious, but sometimes we get enamored by the technology, right? Oh yeah, this model coming out. Oh, this now we're in the agentic kind of age, right? So I think it's super important to always keep in mind. In our case, we call lead with value. Right? Always think about the business case. We'll always think about the value case, the North Star of what you are trying to implement. Sometimes this kind of things just get neglected, and then and frankly, it's also very hard to measure, but it's essential. So I think these are the two things that I want to overemphasize, right? And I think if you do these two things well, leverage the proven solution, and also always lead with the North Star, I think this journey is going to be very fruitful for you. And there's no turning back. I mean, just to be clear, right? Both sides of the society are going down this, the journey of AI, and there's no turning back. And I think it's more about, okay, how do you create device, very personalized, institution-specific strategy approach and investment profile, right? That is best fit for you. So just want to share those two perspectives.
Yeah, as what Lan had mentioned, this topic or this question itself can easily take 3 hours or even a few days for all the variable sharings from the...
Yeah, but I think this is also what Sam was talking about earlier, the being scrappy, right? There's no, it's not like you made mistake, right? So, being scrappy, hands-on, jumping, doing experimentation, those are all the things that private sector clients have been doing with Gen AI for the last 2 years, right? 18 months. And that's why I think in Accenture, we're also setting up, right, our Gen AI studio, innovation studio in Singapore. But because I run globally, so we also have 18 different studios, right, in global locations, so that we can all go in and work with the synthetic data, work with the, priority use case, so that you can create, when you walk out of the door, you actually have a, prototype application ready to go. So very good point there earlier.
Thank you, Lan. So thank you all the panel speakers, I think, for the valuable insights. We have covered the 3 areas as what we have highlighted. What are the current AI deployment examples, and what are the challenges faced by the industry, and how can government and industry collaboration can possibly address them, and of course, what are the potential applications, and how can we be more AI ready. Yeah, so I think all of us have many takeaway. We have many sharings over here, and this takeaway can be for something that we have to continue to work on AI and for the homeland security. And a quick call out over here that we have to continue to work on opportunity, that we further a collaboration between the industry. I mean, we see a lot of benefit as shared by all the panel speakers to achieve a more successful outcome. Understand there will still be concern, there will still be challenges in implementing them, and that will be our next panel speakers that will share more insight on safe adoption of AI. So with that, we have come to the end of the panel 2 sharing, and we thank all of you to be here with us. Thank you.